Have you ever wondered why there are women who do not choose the crowd, who do not choose a shoulder to lean on, but instead choose to live alone? Why are they not afraid of an empty room? But on the contrary, in that very silence, they become stronger than ever? It is not because they failed in love. It is because they discovered a greater love, the love for themselves. It is not because nobody needs them. It is because they realized they do not need to prove their worth through anyone else. It is not because they are cold. It is because they have learned to protect their hearts and to set boundaries for their peace. It is not because they are selfish. It is because they know blind sacrifice is no longer the measure of true love. You see, in a world that keeps screaming, a woman must have a partner, a husband, and children to be complete, some women choose to step aside. They choose the road less traveled. They choose stillness instead of noise. And the paradox is, that very choice turns them into women of great strength. They no longer live to please others. They no longer wear the mask of I am fine while breaking inside. They no longer need anyone to save them. They are strong because they have once been weak. They are steady because they have once fallen. They shine not because someone came to light their way, but because they set their own fire within. And here is the interesting part. When a woman chooses to live alone, society often thinks she is lonely. But the truth is the opposite. She actually has more space for joy, for creativity, for freedom, for dreams. Do you want to know why? When women choose the path of solitude, they become resilient, wise, and free in ways you cannot imagine. In the next part, I will share with you 7 reasons why women who live on their own actually grow far stronger. And the final reason will completely change the way you look at loneliness. 1, they control their own time. One of the most wonderful things when a woman chooses to live alone is that she has complete authority over the most precious gift, time. No more waiting for someone to finish work just to have dinner together. No more sacrificing a quiet morning just to please someone else. She can read a book late into the night without being reminded. She can wake up early to practice yoga, meditate, or slowly make herself a cup of coffee without anyone interrupting her. It may sound small, but it is exactly those moments, repeated every day, that create a quiet kind of strength. From a Jungian perspective, this is the very first step of individuation, the process of returning to one's true self. When a woman no longer lets her schedule be controlled by others, she begins to hear the voice of her unconscious. It might be intuition whispering that she needs rest. It might be a sudden wave of creative inspiration. Or it might simply be the peace that comes from knowing she does not have to race with the hurried pace of the outside world. You can imagine that woman is like an artist weaving the tapestry of her life. Every hour, every minute is a single thread. And because she gets to choose the colors and choose the rhythm, that tapestry carries her unique mark unlike any other. On the other hand, when women let others decide their time, they easily fall into alienation, living someone else's life while losing themselves. This is what Jung once called the shadow, denying one's true nature in order to chase after imposed roles. The lesson here is very clear. Freedom of time is the foundation of inner freedom. Because when you master each moment, you gradually master your entire life. 2, they learn how to heal themselves. When a woman chooses to live alone, the very first thing she must face is the empty spaces within her soul. There's no one left to vent her anger to, no one to complain to, no one to cling to. And there are no more excuses to avoid her own pain. Many people think that sounds frightening, but it is exactly in that emptiness where a woman begins to learn the most precious lesson, how to heal herself. Take a very simple, everyday example. After a long, stressful day, instead of going out on a shallow date to cover up her loneliness, she opens a journal and writes down the sadness pressing inside her. Instead of jumping into a fleeting relationship to forget an old wound, she chooses to spend a quiet evening, play soft music, and let the tears fall. as a way to cleanse her soul. Instead of running away, she sits with herself. From a Jungian perspective, this is the process of confronting the shadow. Every human being has hidden dark parts, wounds, anger, desires that have not been heard. When living alone, a woman can no longer hide her shadow behind the roles of wife, mother, or lover. She is forced to look directly at it, to acknowledge it, and slowly reconcile with it. And then something miraculous happens. The shadow is no longer the enemy. It becomes the teacher. It reminds her, this is the part of you that needs love. From there, healing no longer comes from the outside, from fleeting words of comfort or temporary arms to hold her. It comes from within, from the courage to face herself, from embracing the broken pieces and transforming them into a part of her growth. The lesson here is, healing is not about finding someone else to stitch up your wounds. Healing is about learning to pick up the needle and thread and patiently sew your own heart back together with your own hands. 3, they establish clear boundaries. One of the quiet strengths of women who choose to live alone is the ability to say no. They no longer have to reluctantly agree to plans they do not want. They no longer have to force a smile at requests that are beyond their capacity. They no longer have to carry responsibilities that were never theirs to begin with. Take a simple everyday example. A friend invites her to a party, but deep down, she only wants to stay home and read. Instead of nodding just to avoid judgment, she gently says no. A colleague tries to push extra work onto her, and she firmly sets the boundary. This is your part, I cannot take on more. It may sound simple, but behind every refusal is a long journey of growth. From a Jungian perspective, this is the evolution of the persona, the social mask. In the past, many women used the persona to please others, always appearing obedient, always ready to sacrifice, always saying, I am fine, even when they were not. But when living alone, they learn how to use the persona with awareness, not to hide themselves, but to protect their true essence. It becomes the boundary between the self and the world. It is the shield that prevents intrusion, yet does not cut off connection. And then they realize, when you are brave enough to say no, you also give yourself the chance to say yes to what truly matters. Yes to health. Yes to peace. Yes to genuine relationships. Because boundaries are not walls built to isolate. Boundaries are doors. Those who can walk through are the ones who deserve to. Those who do not respect them will remain outside. The lesson here is, when women establish clear boundaries, they do not become cold, they become authentic. They no longer live to please others. They live in loyalty to themselves. 4, they invest in knowledge and career. When a woman chooses to live alone, the energy that she once poured into pleasing others is now transformed into investing in herself. She spends time learning a new skill. She pursues a degree that she once put on hold. Or she boldly steps into a career path, starting a business, creating, contributing. Everyday examples are clear. That woman may spend her evening studying a new language instead of wasting it in meaningless conversations. She may save money to travel and expand her perspective instead of spending just to prove her worth with material things. Or she devotes her entire weekend to a personal project, writing, painting, or research, something that nourishes both her intellect and her soul. From a Jungian perspective, this is the awakening of the animus, the masculine principle within a woman. The animus brings decisiveness, logic, creativity, and the power to shape the world. While feminine energy, the anima, nurtures and connects the animus, is the fire that drives action and turns ideas into reality. When a woman lives alone, no longer confined by traditional expectations, she has the chance to balance these two energies, to become a whole and complete being. And the truth is, when she invests in knowledge and career, she's not just building a better resume or a stronger bank account. She is building self-respect. Because every success, big or small, becomes proof that I can stand strong on my own 2 feet. This does not mean she rejects love or family. It means she chooses to lay a solid foundation for herself first, so that if someone enters her life one day, she can give love from fullness, not from lack. The lesson here is, when women invest in knowledge and career, they are not only creating a future, they are affirming their inner worth. They do not need anyone to hand them power. They are the source of their own strength. 5, they learn how to enjoy silence. One of the most precious gifts that women who choose to live alone receive is the ability to enjoy silence. If in the past, silence made them afraid of emptiness, afraid of loneliness, afraid of the voice within, now they begin to learn how to sit down, breathe slowly, and let silence become a companion. Everyday examples are simple. On a rainy afternoon, instead of frantically calling someone to talk to, she sits by the window, pours herself a cup of tea, and lets the raindrops tap their rhythm on the roof. In the evening, instead of turning on the TV just to fill the void, she lets the space settle, plays soft music, and feels every beat of her heart. And in that moment, she does not feel empty, she feels complete. From a Jungian perspective, silence is the doorway to the self, the deepest core of being. In the noisy flow of life, we are easily swept up by the persona, the social mask, and forget the hidden essence of the soul. But when a woman chooses solitude, she has the chance to return to the self, to connect with the purest, most authentic part of who she island. Silence is no longer the enemy. Silence becomes a fertile field where intuition and creativity can take root. And the fascinating thing is, it is within those quiet spaces that they discover a strength they never imagined before. They realize that peace is not the absence of external noise, but the freedom from being controlled by the noise within. They realize that true presence does not require many people, but rather a genuine connection with oneself. The lesson here is, silence is not emptiness. Silence is the deep music of the soul. And when women learn how to enjoy silence, they are no longer afraid of being alone, because in that silence, they have found themselves. 6, they break free from comparison and social pressure. From a young age, women are raised within certain molds. They must study well to bring honor to their family. They must get married to stabilize their life. They must have children to prove their role as mothers. And if they do not follow that path, they immediately become the subject of whispers and judgmental stares. But when a woman chooses to live alone, she begins to step out of the cycle of comparison and social pressure. Everyday examples are easy to see. While her friends are posting radiant wedding photos, she chooses to save money for a solo trip to a new land, expanding her horizons. While colleagues are proudly showing pictures of their children, she spends her time learning a new skill, nurturing her personal dreams. And instead of feeling inferior, she smiles, because she knows that each person walks a different journey, and no two paths are the same. From a Jungian perspective, this is the step of breaking away from the collective unconscious. Society often imposes fixed archetypes on women: the wife, the mother, the sacrificer. But when she chooses to stand apart, the woman dares to rewrite her own script. She is no longer driven by her parents' expectations, her neighbors' opinions, or comparisons with friends. She dares to live authentically, to choose a path unlike anyone else's. And then she realizes, comparison only creates two emotions, either inferiority or arrogance. Both are chains. Only when we break free from comparison do we truly become free. The lesson here is, happiness does not come from meeting society's standards, but from discovering your own. A woman does not need to be like anyone else. She only needs to be herself, and that is more than enough. 7, they become their most authentic selves. There is a special kind of beauty that only shines when a woman chooses to live alone. It is the beauty of authenticity. No more chasing trends just to be praised as fashionable. No more living under the obsession of being the dutiful daughter, the perfect wife, or the flawless mother. No more reshaping herself to fit into the mold that society has created. Everyday examples bring this to life. A woman can freely wear the simple outfit she loves, instead of forcing herself into painful high heels just to look good in someone else's eyes. She can choose to live in a warm, modest apartment, growing plants and raising a cat, instead of struggling to buy a big house just to prove she is successful. She can spend her weekends writing, painting, or playing music, even if no one is watching, because for her, that is true freedom. From a Jungian perspective, this is the outcome of individuation, the process of becoming whole. After confronting the shadow, balancing the animus and the anima, and breaking free from the collective unconscious, a woman begins to integrate all her pieces into one complete being. She no longer lives as a role. She lives as herself. And that is the essence of authenticity. The strange thing is, when she stops trying to prove herself, she becomes even more magnetic. When she no longer seeks acceptance, she gains more respect. When she does not cling, she naturally becomes the center without effort. Because authenticity is the greatest form of attraction. No one can copy it. No one can replace it. And no one can take it away. The lesson here is, true strength does not come when a woman has everything. It comes when she dares to be herself. No additions, no subtractions, no pretending. There was a time when that woman was terrified of returning to an empty room. The ticking of the clock seemed to drown her heart in loneliness. She thought that if no one was by her side, it meant she was not enough, not worthy, that she was missing out on something. But then, as the days passed, the truth quietly revealed itself. That emptiness was not meant to punish her, but to teach her how to look within. That silence was not a sentence, but an invitation to step into the depth of her soul. From a place of lack, she began to recognize fullness. From relying on the gaze of others, she slowly learned how to look inward. From fearing loneliness, she transformed it into a space of creativity, of healing, of peace. And then, the transformation happened. The woman who once trembled at facing herself now sits calmly in a quiet afternoon, smiling. The woman who once sought her worth in compliments and recognition now knows that worth has always lived in her heart, needing no approval. The woman who once exhausted herself to please everyone now understands that protecting boundaries, saying no when needed, is the deepest act of self-love. Jung once said, "Do not seek safety in another's light. Step into your own darkness, and you will find your unique light." That woman walked through the darkness, and the light she found was not from someone else's hand, but from the fire burning within her own soul. This is no longer the journey of someone fragile, desperately searching for a crutch. This is the rebirth of a soul, from broken to whole, from wounded to powerful. And when she looks back, she realizes that living alone has never been about lack. Living alone is about returning to enough. Enough freedom, enough peace, enough strength to stand tall, and enough love to give without clinging. So, we have walked together through a journey from the fragile moments that felt like weakness to the radiant moment of freedom. From the fear of an empty room to the joy found in silence. From depending on glances, compliments, and recognition to the strength of defining her own worth. From wearing the mask to please others to daring to remove it all and live authentically. The most important message here is this. Living alone does not mean being lonely. Living alone is the courage to step into the depths of your soul, and from there, discovering strength, peace, and joy that no one can take away. You see, women who choose to be on their own do not do so because they lack something. They choose it because they are already enough. Enough maturity to not cling. Enough clarity to not be led by social pressure. Enough strength to walk the path that few dare to take. And the wonderful thing is, when they are whole, they not only live for themselves, they also become an inspiration to others. They remind us that you do not need to prove anything. You do not need to be like anyone else. You only need to dare to return to yourself, and that is already complete. If you feel a resonance with these words today, leave a comment with the keyword strong. That will be your way of affirming that you too are on the journey back to yourself. Do not forget to click like to spread this message to more women. Share this video with a friend who needs to hear these words right now. And subscribe to the channel so we can continue to explore the deep journeys of the soul, where we learn to walk not in fear, but in freedom. Because in the end, strength does not come from having someone beside you. Strength comes when you dare to stand alone and still smile brightly.